I have done a lot of classes to homeless shelters. One thing is people could be doing life, working, doing what they're supposed to be doing, paying their bills, and emergencies happen. And there, a lot of times these emergencies are things that we don't prepare for, we didn't plan for, we didn't anticipate. But having a savings is extremely important to help you with those unexpected circumstances that can happen. First of all, a savings account is an account that is not an operational account. It's not the account that you pay your bills out of. It's not the account that you have your debit card purchases coming in and out of. A savings account is where you're putting money aside and you're building it up either for emergency purposes or saving up for a particular goal, or both. Why do people save? Let me turn off my heater. People save for one, emergency savings, like I was talking about. For example, my job is pretty risky. At any time I could lose my job. I could sign off on something and, I need to be prepared to pay bills in case I were to lose my job. If there's a death in the family, if you even get a flat tire, you want to have a savings account for emergency purposes. But why else do people save? Let's say you have a goal in mind. You want to buy a car, you want to buy a house, you want to go on vacation, you want to save up for Christmas. So there are a lot of reasons why people save. And the next thing I want to go over are wants and needs. In the process of saving money for yourself, it's going to be difficult in the beginning. You're going to have to kind of buckle down, and you're going to need to, in the beginning, figure out, what are the wants versus your needs. First of all, the other thing that people must know is that financial advisors say that you should have anywhere between 4 to 6 months of living expenses saved up in a savings account in case of emergency. So if you're, let's say your bills are $1,000 a month, let's just say, then you're going to want to have $4,000 to $6,000 in a savings account for emergencies. Well, how are you going to do that? In the beginning, it's going to be difficult. You're going to really have to buckle down. You're going to have to figure out what your wants are versus your needs. So, a want is, buying a $5 Starbucks coffee, for example. When you can actually probably make your coffee at home, and that might save a little bit of money. A need is paying your water bill. A want might be, some expensive shoes that you've been eyeballing, that you've been looking at. A need is a pair of decent shoes, so that you can go to work or go to an interview. So you're going to have to figure out what your wants are, what your needs are. And in the beginning, when you're really trying to get focused on building up your emergency savings account, those needs are not going to be, or those wants are not going to be easy to let go of. But you've got to build up that emergency savings account first to make sure that you're okay. And like I said, just one bad scenario, could really be difficult and make it difficult for you to pay your bills. You want to get organized. You want to budget. There are lots of resources online that you can look up that will help you figure out what your budget is per month. It'll allow you to put down, what your bills are, what your allowances are, take into consideration what your income is. And what you want to do is you want to pay yourself first. Pay yourself as if you were a bill. So let's say, you want to try to put away $100 a paycheck. You pay yourself first, like if you were a bill. You put that money into a savings account. And you should always have savings goals. I think what's important first is for you to put together your emergency savings. Once you've got your emergency savings put together, then go ahead and start saving for your goal. Like I said, whether it be a car, whether it be a house, whether it be for Christmas, you should always have savings goals. And then even after that, another savings goal could be, investing in your 401k. I recommend that you invest in your 401k immediately, even if it's starting off with a couple of dollars a paycheck. It's really one of the best things that you can do, because your company is usually going to give you free money to help you save, and it's saving in there tax-free. You don't have to pay taxes on the money that it's earning year after year. So it's definitely a good idea for you guys to invest in your 401k, even if it's really difficult and you have to start off with just a couple of dollars. Always do your company's 401k, and then you can transfer it over if you move from one company to another company.
I have a question, Ms. Lisa, if I can.
Yes.
What will be the amount that you recommend to invest in the 401k? Like, I think some people start, I think, with the 4% or something like that.
It really depends on what you can do. Honestly, when I started in banking, I was 20 years old, and I probably only put like maybe 5%. I really wasn't able to afford to do much, because I was, paying my way through school, I had bills and things like that. So I probably started with anywhere between 2 to 5%.
Okay.
I went on, I was able to put more and more into my 401k. And right now I'm anywhere between like 12 to 15%. Okay. So it just depends, you want to, if it's the first time that you're doing, 401k investing, you can start off with whatever you're comfortable with, and you don't have to do a percentage. You can do a flat dollar amount. A lot of times they'll say, you can say, I want to donate $100 a paycheck, or I want to donate $20 a paycheck. You really just kind of have to look at your finances and see what works out best for you. But I will say, in the beginning, it was like, 2 to 5%. And now I max out. Now I want to put in there as much as I possibly can, which is like the 12 to 15%.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. So financial goals, you're gonna want to create your budget. Like I said, there's spreadsheets that you can use online. And it really is a great way to put what you're doing into perspective. Once you put down how much you're paying in bills, it might scare you a little bit. You might be like, wow, I really don't have that much money to be, spending on going to the movies every single weekend, or, whatever it is. It really puts it into perspective, and discipline is extremely important, so that you can make sure that you build up your emergency savings first. And you're always going to have a financial goal. And your goal, it's up to you, whatever you want it to be. My recommendation is emergency savings. My recommendation is a 401k. My other recommendation is definitely buying a house. I am not crazy about long-term putting money, into rent. You're just making somebody else rich. There are so many programs that the banks are offering right now that will let you get into a house with 0 to 5% down payment. A lot of times your real estate agent can make it so that the closing costs are paid for by the seller. There are so many resources. I even think at one time Harris County was even giving away free money. You just got to look for these programs. Harris County was giving away money to help people get into their own homes. And that money was like anywhere between $5,000 to $25,000 towards down payment, towards closing costs and things like that. So it is a possibility, even if you start off with a, small starter home.
I had a question, Lisa, about that. Is that for that particular incentive? Is that for first-time home buyers, or is that for everyone? I mean,
usually that incentive is for first-time home buyers. It's usually when they're giving away.
okay.
But aside from that, there are those programs that will allow you to get in with 0 to 5% down payment. It used to be that you had to have 20% down payment, plus you had to have closing costs. So now there's all kinds of programs, because home ownership is a good thing. The government wants you to have your home, your own home. So there's programs out there to help you. I don't know, that program that was offered was last year. If there's not that program out there, there might be something similar. You might want to check with Harris County and see what they're offering. Now that program, I'm in Cypress, for example, but that program was only for Houston, like city of Houston limits. So, you'd have to consider where you want to live. Some people want to get out of the, city limits, and those programs may not be offered outside of the city limits. So you just got to take that kind of stuff into consideration.
I just want to ask, do you have any resources where we can check out this things that you may have of these plans? Because I'm right now, I'm like going over stuff for the houses, because I'm planning probably next year to start my investment on a house, because that's my plan. Since I'm graduating in May, that's my second goal. My first goal was graduating. My second goal is to buy a house. So this is very helpful. Do you have any list of resources or any plans that you may recommend for me to stop my steps?
So, I mean, I don't know who else offers this product that I was telling you about, where you can get in with 0 to 5%. I know Prosperity Bank does. I'm not trying to just put a plug in for Prosperity Bank, but I know we do offer that product. And I do know that other program was offered. You can try going maybe to City of Houston, urban housing and development maybe with City of Houston or Harris County, and go onto the websites and see if maybe they might be able to help you with it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Any other questions? And you guys can interrupt anytime. My pleasure. I answer anytime you guys need to have a question. Also, part of savings is increasing income. Naturally, when I started in banking, I was maybe making $9 an hour, in banking. But as time goes on, as your career furthers, your income will increase. As your income is increased, go ahead and throw a little bit extra into your savings account. Go ahead and throw a little bit extra into your 401k. And there's lots of ways for you to increase your income. First of all, sometimes people have second jobs. Sometimes people have, some kind of side gig, where they can do something online or even, work at a retail location, to help to give themselves a little bit extra income. Does anybody have any ideas or have any other ways that they're getting a second income or extra income? I'm just wondering. Nobody? Like I worked, as a teller when I started, and then, side jobs, did babysitting, or, might have worked in an office organizing. And so, anything that you can do, to help increase your income, is okay. And that money can be put away into your emergency savings account. Also,
right now.
Sorry?
That's what I'm doing right now. I have my job as in a school, but I have a little small business selling baking and stuff.
Oh, wow.
So I put that baking money in a way just for saving.
And that's what you want to do. You want to, if you're able to have your, like I call it, your side hustle, and use that extra money to start putting away. And when as you're saving, like I said, you want to have enough money for closing costs. You're going to want to have an emergency savings account, because God forbid something were to happen, a layoff or from your job or something, you have a little cushion for you to continue to pay your house note, for you to continue to pay your car note, water bill, house bill, whatever, bills that you have. So the other thing is, we were talking about decreased spending. How do we decrease spending? First of all, overdraft fees. I work at a bank. Some people live off of their account going into the negative. And of course, the banks like it because they make money off of it. But it's really expensive. For example, here, our first overdraft fee is like $55. So it's a $35 fee and then a $20 penalty that they charge at the end of the month. At all costs, avoid late charges, avoid overdraft fees. If you've got a credit card, It's extremely, extremely important to make your payment on time to avoid interest charges and things like that. Maybe eating out less is a way to decrease spending while you are like trying to save money for your emergency savings or trying to save money for whatever goals you might have. There are several things that you can do to help you decrease spending. That's why budgeting is really great, because it'll, kind of be an eye opener, and you'll be able to see what are you actually spending your money on, what could you afford to cut out, what can you not afford to cut out. But yeah, absolutely. Emergency savings is important. Have your financial goals in mind, and just be prepared for anything that life can throw at you. And best case scenario, you'll get your house, you'll have your little emergency cushion, and you'll start saving for whatever your next goal will be. Does anybody have any other questions about savings accounts? I will go over a little bit on how savings accounts works a little bit more with the banks if anybody doesn't have any questions right now. Okay. Just so that you guys know, the savings account, like I was telling you guys, is separate from your operation account. The government says that we cannot withdraw from our savings account more than 3 times per month, which makes sense because it's the account that you're going to be putting your money into and saving. It's not your transactional account. It's not your checking account. Sometimes you can link your checking to your savings for overdraft protection. The most banks offer that option. We offer it, and just to give you an example, if the account were to draft, your checking account needed funds, it would pull from your savings account to cover what you're negative in your checking account, but there is a transfer fee, and it's like $10, which is still better than $55 total overdraft fee. Let's see, they're super easy to open, and banks have different minimum balances to maintain. We have a savings account that has a minimum balance to maintain of just $200. If it falls below that balance, you're charged a $3 fee for the month that it dipped below the $200 balance. Some banks have a higher minimum balance to maintain. They may ask you to maintain $1,000 in your savings, or they may ask you to maintain $1,500 in your savings account. So when you're looking for a savings to open, take a look at banks, take a look at, you want to find out, is it convenient for you? You want to find out what is the minimum balance to maintain. You want to find out, are they going to charge you a monthly maintenance charge regardless of what you have in there? Sometimes they're just automatically going to charge you a couple dollars a month. But most banks have minimum balances to maintain. That's where it varies, is, how much you have to keep in there to avoid the fee. And like I said, we want to avoid late fees and late charges as much as possible. It's just not smart to pay overdraft fees continuously. It's just not smart to pay your bills late and then have to be charged finance charges with your credit cards, or late charges with your bills and things like that. So like I said, savings accounts, super basic. Once you have a good balance built up in your savings account, savings accounts are great because they're a little bit more flexible, but once you have a good balance built up, you can maybe move into a money market account that might earn a little bit more interest for you. Once you have a really good amount saved up, you might want to throw $20,000 to, some kind of investment, some kind of safe investment. But investments are done, when you've got money to play with, when you've got a really good cushion, you've got your house, you've got your emergency savings account already built up. You've got your savings goals taken care of and done. You're already contributing to your 401k. Then, you might say, well, what's left? Well, then you might want to think about investments, later on down the line. And the investments usually have risk associated with them. They are not usually FDIC insured like the bank products are. But people like them because there might be an opportunity for more interest to be earned on those accounts. So, but starting off with a savings account is the best way to do it. 4 to 6 months of living expenses in a savings account. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions? No questions. If I may just touch a little bit on credit also. I know this is not necessarily a credit class, but credit is extremely, extremely important. I know my parents scared us into having good credit. They were like, if you don't take care of your credit, you're not gonna be able to buy a house, you're gonna be able to buy a car, which is not true. You can still buy them, but you're gonna be paying a higher interest rate. The other thing that we do is we decided not to sign for anybody, because if you put your credit on the line for somebody, once it gets messed up, it's extremely hard and takes a very long time to fix your credit. You really have to protect your credit. Your credit is a score, kind of like a grading of your capability to pay. And the score ranges anywhere from, I think it's like 450 to like 850 or something like that. Ideally, if you want the preferred interest rates on cars, on houses, you want to be maybe like at 700. But the only way to get there is to show that you are capable of paying your bills when they are due and the minimum amount that they're asking for. A lot of people, sometimes people even have great income, they make hundreds of thousands of dollars, but we can't give them a loan with a good interest rate because their credit is bad, because they fail to be responsible and make payments, on their, to their bills. And credit is not everything. So credit is not, your checking account is not linked to credit. Your water bill is not linked to credit unless they report you for not paying. But credit is more extended to you whenever you get a loan out for buying furniture, buying a car, buying a house, financing some kind of like a major piece of equipment for your home or something like that. Anything that you are borrowing money is usually reported for credit purposes. And it is just so important to protect your credit. It's just the smartest thing to do, because at the end of the day, you're going to save money because you will be given the preferred interest rates on any kind of loan that you need in the future. And we all need eventually a home, loan for a house or a loan for a car. Does anybody have any questions on credit? No. I want to do a class that's a little bit more detailed on credit. The protecting your credit is something that, you can't just sign for anybody. If you sign for somebody, I will tell you, it usually doesn't turn out right. Usually because, if you're signing for somebody else, they might not be too concerned about, taking care of your credit like you are. So, I'd be really careful about when somebody asks you to sign with them or sign for them on a loan or something like that, because it could ruin your credit and ruin your opportunity to get what you need in the future, for you to provide a home for your family. If the credit score is too low, the banks will not extend a line of credit or will not extend a loan if the credit is too low. And like I said, it is very difficult to build up your credit, but it doesn't take but a moment to do something and your credit ends up being bad, and it could be one late for 30 days and that's it. The credit's gone and score is not good anymore. But yeah, other than that, savings, of course, I believe in savings. I believe in you having your own home, definitely having a checking account, definitely watching your fees. And that's just smart. Watch your fees, watch your interest rates and your overdrafts. Does anybody have any other questions? No? Okay. I guess just so that you guys know, I'm always available if you guys ever have any questions, financial questions. My email address is Lisa lisa.rocha@prosperitybankusa.com. So if you guys ever had any questions, you're welcome to send me an email. If you have questions on the mortgage process, what is escrow? How does that work? I'd be more than happy to help you guys. And like I said, if you're paying rent, a lot of times you can get yourself into a house with paying just as much, if not less, than what you're paying in rent. So, build up your savings account, save for your goals, and get yourself a house, even if it's a small starter house. I'm about home ownership and everybody, investing in themselves instead of you paying somebody else and making somebody else rich. So, but that's all I have for now on savings. Does anybody have any questions? No. Well, that's my email address, lisa.rocha@prosperitybankusa.com. So if you guys have questions aside from that, you're welcome to give me a call and let me know.
So we definitely want to say thank you, Lisa, for joining us this morning and for your presentation on credit. I know that, one of the bigger takeaways for me that you talked about for our students was making sure that you have your savings, at least 3 to 4 times the amount of what it costs for you to live. So, and I know that you gave tips for, how you could do that, starting gradually and building your way up. And, and of course, just emphasizing the fact that it's not too early to ever start that, even now. I mean, like you said, sometimes even $5 or $10 now until our students are able to be in that position where they are teachers and making that salary and able to put money aside. So, I just definitely wanted to kind of piggyback off of that to encourage our students to do that. And then another major takeaway that I had from you was when you said, you have to protect your credit score because that's all that we get. And, like you said, especially, I know that I had a cousin of mine who asked, hey, would you co-sign for me, on getting a car? I was like,
Yeah.
I love you, but nope. You know what I'm saying? Because I know that, how she can kind of be with money, and I'm not about to put myself at risk for that. Not when I know that I have, goals for getting into a house at some point. So it's like, So I just wanted to make sure that our students know the importance of that. It's not to say that you don't love your friends or your family members, but you really have to make a really conscious decision before you decide to put your name and your credit out there for somebody else to just, because that could potentially put you in a really unfortunate situation if things don't go well with them.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite aunts asked me if I could sign for her to get a car. And when my husband and I got married, we decided that we were not going to sign for anybody because we wanted to protect our credit, because we wanted to, start our lives and eventually start a family. And we needed our credit to be the best so that we can, and protect it so that we can do what we need to do for us to advance. And so my favorite aunt asked me to sign for her. And I told her, I said, I'm sorry. I said, we decided that, we agreed that we were not going to be able to sign for anybody. I mean, I can give you advice on, where to go to fix your credit, but I'm so sorry. And honestly, with her, as much as I love my aunt, but I know that it would not have ended well. I know that what would have happened is, something would have not gotten paid. My credit would have been affected. And then I think that would have caused more of a difficult situation with our relationship. And so I felt like me saying no, I'm not able to, because it was what my husband and I decided on. I feel like me saying no not only protected my credit, but also kind of protected our relationship. Because although she was a little bit mad, in the beginning, or maybe a little bit disappointed that I couldn't help her in the beginning, ultimately, she understood and she moved on and got over it. But if I did sign for her, and more than likely she would have, missed some payments, would have messed up the credit, then we would be having some more serious issues. And so and it was a hard conversation to have. It was so hard for me to tell my favorite aunt that I couldn't sign for her. But I did it. We got through it. She still loves me. I still love her. We still talk, but ultimately it would have ended up just bad for everybody. If I would have signed for her. And I used to tell people, you can mess with my mama, you can mess with my grandma, but don't mess with my credit. Just kidding, you can't. But I used to tell people that all the time, protect your credit. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Do we have any questions on the floor from any of our students? I think one of our other speakers, Miss Loretta, was having some technical difficulties.
Okay.
So hopefully, I think we're okay on that end.
Okay. I was talking about, when I did classes for, I've done a lot of classes in homeless shelters. And like I said, some of these women, and they're usually women's shelters, some of these women are doing life, like working, like car, house, children, and one little bump in the road, their tire busted, or they lost their job because of something happened, or layoff or something. And without that emergency savings account, there to help them get through that little bump in the road until they can get back on their feet. Unfortunately, there's good women that end up being homeless, with their children, good women that are hard workers that, not all of these women in the homeless shelters are, drug addicts or, mental issues or anything like that. Sometimes these are just women that have come across some hard times and we're not prepared for them. And so that's why having an emergency savings account is so important. I actually have 6 months. I used to have 4. I actually have 6 months of living expenses saved up. And in order for me to get to having 6 months of living expenses saved up in my savings account, I had to really buckle down, and there was no shopping for a while. There was no, going out to eat was hardly ever. It was cooking a lot at home. It was just doing whatever I can to prepare myself for, what could possibly happen in the future. So that's why, making that emergency savings account is important. Paying yourself first as if you were a bill, is important. You've got your light bill, I don't know, $200. You've got your car note, $400. And then you also have yourself, $100. Go ahead and throw that money into a savings account. There are, there are banks that can offer you a product where they can do an auto transfer from your checking to savings, like twice a month or, every week or something like that. You can do that, or you can just link on your online banking, just do a simple transfer from your checking to your savings so that you can build up that savings account. There's lots of options for you to save. It's just, buckling down, budgeting, trying to figure out what you're spending your money on now and what you can afford to cut out until you have your savings account built up is what you're going to have to do. And like I said, there's lots of spreadsheets online. I don't have any resources right now, but you can just type in savings budget in the search field, and all kinds of spreadsheets will come up that you can print out and you can document, what you're doing with your money. It's kind of an eye opener.
Wow, no, definitely. No, it really is. It's really important to have a budget. And so, just encouraging the students to do that. And I know that with my bank, it will, at the end of the month, it'll say, you can swipe how much you've spent on entertainment or on eating out or on gas or groceries. And so, that really does help to give you a leg up, so I don't know, students, who, you might particularly bank with, but if, you have it online, you can see where all of your transactions are coming out. But it's definitely a good idea, like Miss Lisa said, to
start trying to create that budget, or if nothing else, like go back and look at all your transactions for the month and just like start documenting it. And then maybe you can start trying to allocate amounts for, you know, the next month to say, okay, I'm going to try not to go over X amount of dollars for whatever particular expense. It really does help make a difference. And, you know, to your point about having the different, you can like just do a Google search and you can pull up these different like budget calculators or things that you can plug in, and it'll help. So it's really good. So I just really appreciate your presentation. You've been really great.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. To offer a way to kind of categorize your payments, and so that you can see, and sometimes it's like, oh my God, I'm paying $300 just on eating out, or $200 just on eating out. That's too much, you know? And so, you know, if you'll mess with it, the banks have all kinds of tools that you can use that can help you to categorize. And like you said, you know, it'll show you, you know, okay, I'm spending way too much money on movies. I'm spending way too much money on shopping, or, you know, and eventually you can, and you will be able to do those things. But in the beginning, what's more important is that you get yourself prepared for the worst case scenarios. You know, you get yourself prepared for, you know, something that can happen that wasn't foreseen. And then once you've got your emergency savings built up, like I said, once you have your home, you know, you might have a little bit of extra spending money to get yourself a blouse or get yourself a pair of shoes or something, but you just got to really buckle down and hustle and get that emergency savings built up.
Yes. And then there was like one little saying, I have to say it for our students. My grandfather used to say it all the time. He was like, okay, if your output is more than your income, then your upkeep is going to be your downfall.
Right.
So if you are spending more than you're bringing in, then trying to maintain that is what's going to mess you up. So,
and that's where people get in trouble. I mean, I look at accounts all day long and every day, and I'm looking at people, you know, overdrafting. I have my frequent offenders. That's what I call them. They're on my overdraft list every day, and it's just not smart because you're spending so much money on overdraft fees. You know, it's just not a smart thing to do. Budget, know how much you make, know where your money is going to, and be prepared for you know, scenarios that can happen. So yeah, a smart man.
Thank you. Well, Miss Lisa, on behalf of Miss Tidwell and myself, Pathways to Teaching Careers, and everyone who is here, we really want to extend our gratitude to you. Thank you so much for filling in the gap and just giving us a dynamic presentation this morning. We are truly, truly privileged to have you with us. Students, I am dropping a link in the chat for you all. So please access this this link in the chat. I'll also send it all to you all via email, and I'll include Miss Tidwell for our Kingwood students. So again, thank you all so much. I don't know, Miss Lisa, if you had any closing remarks before we go.
I don't. Just know that I got my email address, and if there's anything that I am always happy to help, and always happy to educate, and especially because I graduated from U of HD, you know, so and so absolutely, just let me know if you guys have any questions.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, thank you for giving back. I didn't know you were a Gator. Hey. Okay.
Oh.
That's awesome. Okay, well, I will also include Miss Rocha's email address to you all as well in that email that you get. So again, thank you so, so much, and I'm sure we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.